Jude Law is here after a successful career on stage in both Britain and the United States. He made his American film debut in the 1997 futuristic thriller Gattaca. But it was his role as Dickie Greenleaf in The Talented Mr. Ripley that earned him an Academy Award nomination and a spot on Hollywood's A-list. For his latest role, Steven Spielberg handpicked him to play Gigolo Joe in the highly anticipated AI. And here is the trailer from this much-anticipated film.
And a journey to find his place among humans and machines.
I'm a boy.
You are a real boy. At least as real as I've ever made one.
Thank you for coming.
My pleasure.
It's great to have you here. Tell me about the film in terms of you coming to this project with Steven Spielberg, and what intrigued you about it, other than it's the connection of the two of the greatest names in directing history, Spielberg and Kubrick.
It was all the things that you slowly learn to sort of look for in projects, but it was everything sort of presented on a plate, really. Steven called, I mean, the fact that it was the first time a director called me and said, this is a part that I had you in mind for, and I want you to do it right now. You know, no sort of early meeting or interview. Or I'd met Steven before, and he called and told me the story down the phone, and I was compelled and intrigued and very excited with the idea and the challenge behind playing Gigolo Joe. And I flew to London that weekend, and I read it, and then we discussed it even more. And he told me a little about the physical sort of elements to the part, and I mean, there are so many things. I think the film now, in its final product, proves that there are so many themes to this film: enchantment and mystery and new frontiers of technology and emotion, and yet there's a sort of simplicity to it, a child's fairy tale journey for a mother, and obviously all the opportunities to work with Steven, to work on a project that was the brainchild of Stanley Kubrick, and the opportunity to work with Haley. I mean, I'm a father, and I really looked forward to the idea of working with a young actor, because it's a side of my life that I felt I hadn't necessarily expressed through my work.
Your sense of your fatherhood.
Yeah.
Tell me the story. I mean, the story of AI, which has been almost a project of secrecy.
Yeah, very much so.
We know it's about artificial intelligence. We know it's very futuristic. We know it's a time that some terrible things have happened. We know it's a time of creating artificial.
Yeah, it's a time after the ice caps have melted,
right,
and so resources are low, and people can't have children without a license. So the reliance on artificial life, which has advanced tremendously from the point we're at now, is huge, but there's also great bias towards them. And this story follows the story of the first one-of-a-kind child robot that is built to love. And really the question the film asks is, if we are capable of building something that loves, will we be able to love it? And also, what is real love? If we have the ability to program love into something, does that mean we know what love is? How do we know what love is to program it? I think that really is the essence of the piece.
And who is Gigolo Joe?
Well, Gigolo Joe comes in as a slice of the mecha world, mechas being the robots. Right. The division is mecha and orga. We are organic, they are mechanical. And Joe comes in and, if you like, offers a helping hand once David has been abandoned, and leads him through the world of mecha, a far more adult world than he's ever been, that he's ever seen, and sends him, if you like, on the journey to fulfill his wish.
I should say that in the world of mecha, different people have specific responsibilities.
Yeah, mechas are built specific.
Right.
You'd have a gardening mecha.
Right.
A nanny mecha, a chauffeur mecha,
and
an actor mecha, a comedian mecha,
and
I play a lover mecha.
Lover mecha.
A gigolo mecha, yeah.
A gigolo, obviously. This is the number one. Take a look at this clip. This is the introduction of Gigolo Joe, played by Jude. Here it is.
Miss Bevins. It's Joe. At your service.
I asked you during the break about, and you never know what is the genius of the actor, or the talent or the craft of the actor, and whether it comes out of the script and directing. When you said 102,
yeah,
you said that's me.
And I also said there's something always embarrassing about admitting
to say that was my
idea.
idea.
That was me. Yeah. You might as well give it all to the director.
Yeah. Or otherwise we could all be robotic actors.
The physical side to Joe, though, was an extraordinary collaboration, I have to say, and that was the side to working with Stephen that I was thrilled about. I mean, I would have done anything he wanted me to do. Right. I was willing to sort of stand over there, lift your arm, whatever. Yeah. But he's an incredible collaborator. He is a visionary. You're very much on his ship. He's captain. Which is great, because sometimes directors aren't. It's his, it's his journey. But he collaborates. He wants you, he wants ideas, he wants the best of you. And he'll pick and choose, but you always feel the need to give,
Yeah.
And with the physical side to Joe...
Because he's asking for more all the time.
For more, for ideas, for for a fresh approach, for...
But you said Stephen asked you not to do a lot of research.
He didn't particularly want me, or just said, don't bother reading up about artificial intelligence, the movement, at this point, because in a way it's redundant, because we were creating a future fantasy of how far can we go. And whilst they're making incredible advancements, they're nowhere near close to what we're doing. And that's always the interesting thing I felt about Kubrick's work. He was never trying to say, this is what will happen. Everyone was intrigued to see 2001 in 2001, but he wasn't saying, this will be what we're doing. It was an idea, it was a story, it was an imaginative journey. And the same with this, it's not saying, this is where we're going.
Before we start, I told you the story of an amazing man named Danny Hillis, who is developed one of the fastest computers in the world. And he's working on ideas like artificial intelligence. Yeah. And so I said to him, and I said, what's the toughest thing? He said, we can't understand the mind. It's just no way we can comprehend. Yeah. And I said, where are you in this process? He said, well, we're about in developing a computer that's equivalent to a mosquito's brain. That's where we are. Yeah.
Well, that applies exactly to really the question this film is posing, which is, we have so much that we don't understand. How can we possibly program that? How can we take it out of our own understanding and put it into something artificially? I love the. I did read one piece, and it was talking about that great computer that beat Kasparov.
Right.
But if you threw
was it Mr. Blue or Big Blue?
Big Blue. Right. But if you threw Big Blue in a swimming pool, it wouldn't be able to get out. Whereas a bunny rabbit would. It would sink and flood.
Or it wouldn't get out of the way of traffic if it was dropped it in front of a busy freeway.
Quite, but it can play chess really well.
Kasparov. Yeah. Let me take a look at this. Is another scene we'll see Haley Joel Osment, who plays David, in which he talks to you about the blue fairy that will make him into a real boy. Let me set this up, but first, though, where is he, the character of David? I mean, what's he searching for? What's the dynamic of the relationship between these two?
Between Gigolo Joe and David? Well, David's really just on a path to find the blue fairy. He's been abandoned by his mother because he has started, if you like, to infringe on the dynamics of their natural family. At a time when they didn't have a child, the child was frozen because he was sick. This child awakens from his illness, goes back to the family. David's abandoned. And he believes, because of the fairy tale Pinocchio, that he's been told that if he finds the blue fairy and becomes a real boy, his mother will have him back. And yet it's this...
Because he desperately wants love?
He wants love. He's been built to love. He's been built to love his family. And Joe is in debt to him because... he offers a helping hand, David offers a helping hand at a flesh fair. I feel like I'm giving it all away.
No. All right. Roll tape. We'll pick it up from there. Here it is.
Where?
Rouge City.
Across the Delaware. Too far for our feet. We'll need help to get there.
And it is not without peril. We will have to journey.
Here is Danny Hillis telling us about artificial intelligence. Roll tape.
Everybody hears the term artificial intelligence, and almost no one, including me, knows exactly what it means.
Well, what it means is easy, which is...
And especially with Steven Spielberg's movie out there.
Yeah, what it means, I think everybody understands, is a machine that actually thinks and you can talk to.
So that's what it is.
Yeah, that's what it is.
And where
now, of course, it isn't that yet.
Yeah.
So what it is now is trying to get there. And so it's trying to get machines to do more and more things that people do. So it's trying to build a mind, which, of course, is way more complicated than a computer. Wow. Probably the most complicated supercomputer is about as complicated as, say, a fly's mind. And we can imagine in our lifetime maybe getting to a mouse mind or something.
In our lifetime?
But that's my guess. I mean, Ray Kurzweil would have very different numbers, you know, and nobody knows because we don't really know how the mind works. We don't really know how complicated it is. But it is, you know, it's the great mystery. It's the thing, I mean, as a scientist, it's, to me, the most interesting mystery out there. It's the thing that a child can ask a question of the greatest scientists in the world that they can't answer about how the mind works.
The most significant, this great scientist says, mystery out there. How does the mind work, and trying to duplicate it?
Well, quite, and that it is. And I mean, and that's why I feel so proud to be a part of a film that poses that question. It's the question of life. It's the question of our very existence. You know.
Yeah. Spielberg, obviously, as you said, was running his ship. His obligation as a filmmaker is to make the best movie I can, and his focus is on that. Did he evoke the memory in conversations or otherwise of Kubrick in the sense of this was in a sense, picking up the work that Kubrick wanted to do before his...
So. Yeah, and Kubrick was talked about, and his work was talked about almost pretty much every day. I mean, and in the first conversation I had with Stephen, he told me the whole story, and that's such an exciting story. I mean, and I saw Jan Harlan saying on this show that, you know, the idea that Stanley Kubrick believed his friend Steven Spielberg would do a better job than he, and obviously saw something in it that he knew Stephen would bring out, and maybe saw something in it that he felt Stephen needed to journey towards, and it's so exciting to me. It's, you know, but certainly once we were in the process of making it, I mean, it was Stephen's movie. He'd written it. He had lifted the mantle, but was very much, you know, in control of the reins and the brain and the heart of the piece. But because his friend had started it, and because his friend had been involved and given it to him, and I suppose because it dealt with themes that are so Kubrickian, the frontiers of the heart, the mind, technology, the combination of technology and humanity.
And all of that. I mean,
well, quite 2001, Clockwork
2001,
Orange. Yeah. I mean, they were all really tackle that.
And it has also the elements of Stephen in terms of all the kinds of things he's done about the childlike awe, of whether it's E.T. or whatever it might be.
Yeah, and also dysfunctional families. I mean, I think Stephen's tackled that several times in Close Encounters and E.T. I mean, families and the dysfunction of families, not only as families as a place of great warmth and love, which he also does tremendously well and shows tremendously well, but also how they can function when they're dysfunctional, you know.
We're designed and built specific like the rest of us, and you are alone now only because they tired of you, or replaced you with a younger model, or were displeased with something you said or broke. They made us too smart, too quick, and too many.
But because of all those themes, and because of the journey AI had taken via, or rather from Kubrick, you know, we talked about 2001, we watched it, we listened to the music a lot.
Together you would do this?
Oh yeah, when we rehearsed and also on set, and we talked a lot about Clockwork Orange, we talked a lot, I mean, apart from the fact that it's great conversation because they're such good films, it was obviously something he wanted to evoke, and there are little hints to him on the sets and in the design, and I think even in the music at times. John Williams has done a beautiful score.
John Williams did the score.
It's a beautiful score. He's sort of stripped down the themes of the past, and it's very simple and incredibly evocative.
Is this, in the end, why you went into acting? Here you have an opportunity to get inside the head of a character that's interesting, that's a product of sort of, to work with great genius, Kubrick and Spielberg, with a fascinating story about who we are and where we might be going. Is that what acting is about?
For me, yeah, absolutely.
Because you started very early.
Yeah, Pretty, yeah. I suppose I did, yeah.
You suppose you did?
I guess I did,
About
yeah.
6 or 7 or 8 or...
Well, that was at school.
Yeah.
I mean,
But by 13 you were...
Yeah, 13 I was in a theatre company when I was in 13.
Yeah,
which I
that's
did,
acting, yes.
Which I did outside of school. But it was it still feels like the best hobby in the world. I don't feel like I've ever done a day of work in my life. Because it's a great, it's my love. It's my love,
You wouldn't change anything?
Not at all. But as you said, that's exactly for me what acting is about, the opportunity of being a part of great stories, right. and working with people that you learn not only more about your craft, but also about yourself, about the world, about this incredible, incredibly expressive medium that film or theatre.
Yeah, that in the end, that's sort of what artists have an opportunity to do, whether it's film or music or painting or writing novels. It is, in a sense, to explore all these ideas that we are curious about who we are and what we're about, and whether it's relationships or whether it's fantasy or whether it's conflict or whether, with Spielberg's case, it's great tragedy in terms of Schindler's List or in terms of Saving Private Ryan, or the celebration of life and the celebration of awe and wonder and joy and curiosity. And
also, I think something that Stephen understands and does very well is offering that to other people. It's sort of, he sees it. I think he sees it as I always feel a great generosity from his films, in as much as you feel like you're sort of seeing his dreams, or his heart. At least he's quite a. Do you think, as a filmmaker, he wears it on his sleeve?
Is there any part of you that when you're with someone like Spielberg is saying, I want to watch him because someday I may want to make a film? And I want to sort of, at least by osmosis, get something.
I do that on every job I do. I'm not a great one for nipping back to the trailer in between setups. I just worked with Conrad Hall and Sam Mendes on Sam Mendes' new film. And watching Conrad, like watching Stephen, like watching Sam, to me that, again, is part of the joy of the job, is watching great people at work and watching great art being created in front of you and doing stuff I could never do, and it's a joy to watch. It's masters of their craft, and as you said, you learn by osmosis so much that I'm not aspiring to be a director or a DP, but you learn more about your craft.
Yeah. You also pick from experiences being a father. You have 2 sons.
Yeah, I have a stepson.
Stepson, who's about what?
He's 10.
10.
And then my son's 4 and my daughter's 8.5 months.
8.5 months.
Yeah.
So your son is 4.
Yeah.
And the character in this film is how old?
He's 11, I think. Yeah. David's meant to be 11, yeah.
But it's also about parenting, and it's also about love and all of that.
Yeah.
You think you do this better because you are a parent? In this case?
I think...
has it changed you in a way that, beyond how you act, but in a sense of your perspective on yourself?
I certainly think becoming a parent has connected me to an emotional and a kind of sensitivity and a love, deep understanding of the feeling of love and protection and all the things that
and responsibility.
So I suppose, perhaps it's maybe more in tune with that, and that's perhaps something that one can access for work. But as far as it's affect my work, I suppose the most important effect it's had on it is that it's made it clearer to choose work, because I'm not a great fan of being away from them. So work has to kind of match up to that.
Exactly. I read somewhere where the great thing about being where you are is you've got enough offers around, so you can say, I'm going to take a couple of months off, or I'm going to take 3 or 4 months off because I just want to watch them every day. I want to take my kids to school. I want to do whatever I want to do away from...
Well, that's the stuff that feeds you. It's and you're feeding them, but it's the stuff of life.
Yeah. What if this film is a huge hit, which would please you and Stephen and the studio and everyone else, and cast you into some level of stardom that makes the paparazzi and everybody else even more avaricious to know and film and tape? Are you ready for that? Do you care about that? Do you fear that? This whole notion of fame in our culture today?
I do. I fear it more for our culture than I do for myself.
Yes.
I think it's absurd what's happening. I think obsession with celebrity, and I mean, you know, who really cares? I mean, it's so odd. It's such an odd obsession, and it does scare me because my children didn't choose it.
Yeah.
And you feel sometimes like you've got a bounty on your head. I was talking about it the other night to someone. You know, you're the hippopotamus, and they're the kind of little grubs that are eating out of your ear. And unfortunately, you get to the point where your tongue can't quite reach around and knock them off. You know.
Yes. No.
But you know, it's a job. As I said, it doesn't really feel like a job at times because it's something that you love. It's something that can lead to an incredibly comfortable life. It's a job that can lead to time where you can take personal and private time away.
Right.
And with that, I suppose it can pay a lot of money, and I suppose you have to therefore create a world in which you feel secure and you protect your children. And I guess I have to do it to a degree already, certainly in London, because the paparazzi in London there are no reforms or laws that stop them doing what they do.
Yeah.
And so they can sit outside your house if they want.
And
every
you
day.
and your wife are a celebrated couple over there.
Yeah. Pretty much. But I'm a great optimist, and I believe, you know, that with every job there's always a downside and a price to pay, and you have to face that price and look at the positive sides, you know.
In terms of an artist, do you, in thinking about growth and all of those kinds of things, is it simply a natural thing that comes out of what you do rather than something you have to practice and think about? For example, an athlete, a world-class athlete, has to work and practice. If you're a basketball player or a golfer, you're out there on the driving range, you know?
Perfecting.
And if you're a tennis player, you're out early with a hitting partner. All of that.
Yeah.
What's that for an actor?
Well, that's the weird. That's the oddity of being an actor, which is, you know, you can never go home and act.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, a musician
can play his
a writer, painter.
Right.
You can't go home and act. And I don't know about other actors, but friends of mine who are actors, we certainly don't get together and have play readings.
Exactly.
And, you know, let's just do a scene now.
Yeah. So you grow only by experience, then, probably.
I think
by
so.
doing things and working with great people.
Yeah, and also with each job. I mean, I personally love the process of absorbing and reading and watching as much as I can on that given project. To me, it's a great excuse to read, to discover, to educate yourself on new sides of life, and to travel. But you know, whether it's artificial intelligence and the future of technology, or emotions, whether it's existentialism, whether it's the Second World War and the Russians' plight in the Second World War, you know, subjects I had no idea about until Jean-Jacques Hano asked me to do Enemy at the Gates.
Right.
To me, those are wonderful. That's a wonderful opportunity to read up and as I said, absorb. And it's also a great excuse to go back and watch all the films on that, you know, on that subject, and sit and watch movies, basically, you know.
I know.
And read good books.
Yeah, read books and think about it. I mean,
not everyone works like that. Some actors prefer to just turn up and see what's on the page and deliver. But for me, I find that just an opportunity not to miss.
Yeah, exactly. I want to talk about some of the other films, but it was said about you early on by even colleagues that there was a confidence level about you that was striking. Does that mean anything to you? You never heard that before, or of course now that I say it, you recognize it,
and it makes me really embarrassed.
You've heard it all your life. I'm not the first person to tell you.
I was told that at school. Yeah.
And what were you told?
Just that it can sometimes be registered in different ways. Arrogance is what I've been told.
Cocky would be another way.
Show off, showman.
Right.
You know, but I suppose.
Now, do all those fit, or just confident?
I probably, like everyone else, I have a little bit of all of those in me.
And is that part of why you might have wanted to become an actor?
No. My memory of wanting to become an actor was because it was a language that I really just understood immediately, and I liked that in a creative environment, adults and children. I mean, and I remember this at school. Adults and children are equal, in as much as, you know, in a creative environment, everyone has an opinion,
right,
and everyone's ideas are worthy, and And I love the idea of being together with people and putting something on.
Absolutely.
You know?
I was just...
That's really what it came from. And the confidence, I suppose, meant that it didn't bother me that
you had
people
no
were
hesitancy in
looking.
telling you this is what I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I didn't find that I wasn't confident in mathematics.
Right.
And I wasn't particularly confident in physics or biology. But I was
you had a confidence
with
in
an
what
idea
you knew
and
the expression of it.
Quite, yeah. And it's funny, it's something that it takes quite a long time and obviously quite a lot of work as an actor, I think, to get to a point where you feel confident to say, I don't understand what I'm doing in this scene, or I disagree, I really want to do it like this, can you please let me... And I look back at some work, or I remember certain work, thinking, I was right, wow, why didn't I say that? And you learn finally to get to a point where you think, actually, I do know enough now to say, I think this isn't going to work, let me do this, please let me do that,
My guess is the more confident the director, the more likely they'll let you do it. They probably say, the best ones would say, let's do it my way first, and then let's try it.
Yeah, exactly. And also they want to hear. They want to hear, and
Yeah. I've just talked about the fascinating subject for me, too, beyond that, is creating cultures that maximize people. And it's just what you said, you went into acting, where you can sit around and people can express ideas. And so the merit of the idea is more important, and there's never an idea too silly to be heard or too idiotic to be considered, and that the decision about the enjoyment of ideas is not a reflection of the status of the person who's offering them.
Yeah.
It is. And if you can create a culture like that,
well, quite.
And it seems like acting, or within the best sense of the word, has that. Or are there other endeavors where...
It's interesting that actors used to be in the court of in Greek courts. You'd have a philosopher, I think, an astrologer,
right,
a military man, a medicinal man, and you'd often have an actor.
Yeah, and yet at the same time, there are people,
or a storyteller.
A storyteller. Yeah. There's also this thing that exists, and some actors reflect it, I think. I even think Marlon Brando, who I've gotten to know a little bit over the telephone, it is a sense that it's just playing.
Yeah.
So that there is not the same elevated sense of respect for the actor as there is for the scientist or for the, Do you know that, some sense of that?
Very much so. Well, its history is considered on a level with the oldest trade, isn't
exactly. That's right. And when they run in political office, people say, but he's only an actor. Now, Ronald Reagan changed a little bit of that.
It's only playing. But you know what? I rather like that, because the world life needs likeness. It needs players. It needs, people who are not players, but people who are playing.
And people who give us a chance to see ourselves, a reflection of ourselves.
Quite. But also, I rather like, fine, don't give us responsibility. That's fine. We don't want it.
Yeah, well, the guy you just saw, Danny Hillis, I said to him, tell me, because he is genuinely a brilliant man. And I mean, clearly a brilliant man. And he knows a lot of smart people. In fact, a friend of mine said to me, we were in this big room, and a friend of mine said, for dinner, and a friend of mine said, watch out, because I guarantee you'll be talking to so-and-so in 10 minutes, another brilliant man, And all of a sudden, we're having dinner, and I look over, and they're sitting together.
Yeah.
So I went over to see what they were talking about, out of my curiosity. And here's the great thing. They were together, but what they were talking about was the design of one had just bought an apartment in New York, and they were trying to figure out some interesting technological concept as how they could incorporate it into the house. But they had come together, And he said to me, the guy, and we're going to run this conversation maybe later next week. I said to me, what do these brightest people you know share, and beyond intelligence? And he said, there's a sense of childlessness and a sense of whimsy about them, which is true. You think of some of the brightest people you know, they do have that almost,
I always think children have a great wisdom in their innocence. I think wisdom is in innocence.
Innocence and authenticity, sure. Yeah.
And a spontaneity. There's a lot of brilliance in spontaneity. And in unabashed expression. It's when your expressive valves, if you like, are open without being hindered by over-consciousness or etiquette or, being perceived in the wrong way by the wrong person. it's just expression, and expression. I think if all the valves in the body are allowed to run freely, then that's where fluidity and sometimes great ideas come from.
Moving to your career for a second, and when you look ahead, you know, what's the guide for you in terms of what you do? I mean, if Steven Spielberg calls, you want to hear it. I guess if Woody Allen calls, you want to hear it. You know, if Sam Mendes calls because he just came off of American Beauty, you want to hear what he has to say.
Absolutely.
So it's working with great people. That's one,
Yeah.
perhaps most important.
Yeah.
And to tell a great story.
Yeah.
What else guides you in terms of what you want to do with this craft that you
Trying to
have?
find different parts that are going to take me to different places and challenge me and offer me a chance to show something a little different to myself, and also,
Yeah.
I guess to an audience, and
To surprise yourself?
yeah. I suppose, yeah, just to keep changing the game, moving away from. I don't think it can be. Or I just don't find it very interesting to recreate the same role. I think it's more exciting to try and do different things.
It is amazing the range of roles you've had, both in terms of London. I mean, extraordinary. When you played the character that was the lover of Oscar Wilde.
Bosie Douglas.
Bosie Douglas, yeah.
Yeah.
So how did you approach that?
Well, I tried to find something nice written about him, which was very hard, because he was a much-hated man.
Because you wanted to find some redeeming value that make an audience like
Well,
him? Or?
Brian Gilbert wanted it essentially to be a love story, to explain why Oscar Wilde gave his life away, really, because of the love he had for this young man.
Went to prison.
He went to prison, he lost all his money, he lost his family. He then ultimately really drank himself to death because of him. And to tell a love story, you can't just put all the blame on one person. You know, you have to show a certain attraction to him. And Oscar Wilde was surrounded by pretty boys and pretty girls, and you know, so there was so much more to Bosie Douglas than
Another pretty boy.
Another pretty boy with you know, good suits. He was so I searched really for
Penny pinching and middle class. All you can think about is your bank balance.
Bosie, for God's sake, this is intolerable.
No gentleman ever has the slightest idea what his bank balance is. You're absurd. Telling everyone how they ought to live. You're so vulgar. I never want to see you again, ever.
And
what did you find?
Well, like, as I said, I didn't really.
That was a problem.
That was a great problem.
It made it much
Brian
harder.
did a great thing, though. He showed the family that Bosie had come from, and you suddenly understood the damaged goods that he was, and that Oscar saw that. But also that Oscar was taken into a world that intrigued him by Bosie. Yeah. He'd lived in a world of tea parties and cucumber sandwiches, and you know, and wrote wonderful satirical plays about that world, but he didn't write his darker stuff until he met Bosie, and suddenly went into the underbelly of London and peculiar characters, and Dorian Gray, you know, the underbelly of life too, the underbelly of emotions. So he really gave me, Brian and the script gave me the opportunity in the end to sort of investigate that side of Bosie and explain him.
I also read somewhere that you what's the name of the group you have, the Natural Nylon or something?
Yeah.
Which is a group of young actors.
Yeah, we develop, and are still developing, development hell, they call it. I think.
Development hell, yes.
marathon, it should be called.
Yes, that's right.
We develop films and
but aren't you
theatre.
looking to do something where the 4 or 5 of you could come together and do some particular period within
That's right.
London social and cultural life?
Yeah, the Hellfire Club.
The Hellfire Club.
Was the project that it's still being developed. It's a very complicated
it's
story.
genuinely in development hell.
Yeah, it's a really complex story that we still haven't quite cracked.
Yeah.
But indeed, it's a great period of London life. You know.
Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. Clint Eastwood as a director.
Yeah.
What does he bring? Understands America for sure.
Yeah. He was very interesting. It was a very, very small part I had in Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, but again, an opportunity just to watch Clint Eastwood on set, and he brings an incredible confidence to everyone else because he so knows that everyone there should be there, that he sort of instills you with the belief that you can do it. You can do it really, you can do it well. You can, and again, another director who works very, very quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he shot almost before we rehearsed. He'd shoot the rehearsal basically, and if he was happy with that, then again he'd move on. Oh yeah, and so we'd break at lunch and finish for the day because we'd done everything.
So remarkable efficiency.
Incredible efficiency, and I sensed an incredibly gentle man as well. But like I said, I didn't really get to know him. But the opportunity again to sit back and watch John Cusack and Kevin Spacey working was incredible. And I hadn't done very many films at that time. I'd done a couple, but on that level, it didn't. It was a joy to sit back and just watch great actors.
Roll tape.
Give me the money. I ain't even close to getting up where I want to get.
No, I'm not going to give you money for liquor, or marijuana, cigarettes, whatever else you've invited in town.
You, Jim. You don't give me warnings, I give them to you, remember, because I can back mine up.
Anthony Minghella wanted you to do The Talented Mr. Ripley. You didn't particularly believe that it was something that you had to do.
Well, only when I first read it, I just didn't see initially the relish, if you like, that Anthony obviously saw, and I felt at the time.
He saw what? The relish?
The relish of Dickie, the relish of his life, his existence, his confidence, and I've said this a lot of times, but the underbelly, which I think is sometimes the most fascinating kind of sides to characters, and also the importance Dickie has on Tom. I suppose I was reading. I don't know. I misread it. And because it was such a wonderful part to play...
Because you misread it, so therefore you didn't say, I've got to do this. You said, in fact, I'll pass.
Yeah.
And he's got
to
you...
Well, he came and...
Explained it to me.
And explained it to me. And changed my mind. And I'm really glad he did.
You are? Because?
Well, I had a great time working with him. Oh, yeah. And a great time working with the cast on the film. And a wonderful part. It was a really wonderful part to play. I think also, I just didn't see... I didn't see that it was going to be a wonderful part to play straight away. That's all that happened.
Yeah. Roll tape. Here it is.
I need to check out San Remo next week. Find somewhere new to keep the boat. It would be great, though, if you came with me to San Remo. There's a great jazz festival. We could say goodbye in style. What do you think? Our last trip!
You love making that movie.
Oh, I loved it, yeah. I think it felt... like it was, well, talk about hobby. I mean, sitting on a beach,
Well, not only that, I mean, you filmed it outside of Capri.
Yeah, Capri, Ischia,
yeah,
Procida, and then all over.
And you had to learn to sail.
I had to learn to sail.
And you had to learn to do what else?
Play the saxophone.
Play the saxophone, yeah.
Sang a little bit. Yeah. It was,
See, that's another great thing about being an actor. You get paid to go out and take lessons. To bring some, I don't want to sound something highfalutin like truth, but bring some familiarity.
Yeah.
With
believability.
Believability.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's not a bad way to live either.
No.
As
long as it's not awful things.
Yeah, exactly.
In which case, you want to forget about them as quickly as possible.
But have you sailed since you did this movie?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So this was something you...
Oh, yeah, it was wonderful. It's a really... I mean, I'm not... I can help out, but it's a beautiful thing to do, yeah.
What did this do to you in terms of your audience? Any sense? I mean, did The Talented Mr. Ripley change your own... the level of sheer attraction to you as a man?
I don't. I mean, I don't.
Because every time after that, everybody talked about you, Jude. In terms of after that movie was on, you know this. I'm not telling you anything you don't know.
I don't
I may
really.
be telling you something you don't want to talk about.
I don't really. For me, it's about what comes out of it on a work level.
Yeah.
And because of the brilliance of Anthony Minghella.
In every way. He knows painting, he knows music, he knows lots of stuff.
But you know,
Renaissance.
He made me a part of what I thought was a wonderful film, and a lot of people went to see that wonderful film, and so I suppose more people saw that film than any film I'd done prior.
Yeah.
And because of that, because it was a wonderful part, I got the opportunity to work with these great people, and so from that level, that was what I know definitely came from it. Everything else, I kind of choose to blinker myself to be honest.
Me, among my female colleagues. All right, let me just talk finally about the future. You're doing Sam Mendes' Road to Perdition, is that?
Road to Perdition. I actually finished, about
it's in
2 weeks
edit
ago.
now? Oh, of course.
Yeah, they wrapped a week ago. I wrapped 2 weeks ago. That's why I had to lose all my hair.
Yeah. So what's the part you play?
Oh, well, this isn't for the part. It's to get rid of the part. This is for the summer. This is for my holiday.
Who's in the film?
Tom Hanks.
Tom Hanks
is the lead of the film with a wonderful young actor called Tyler Hoechlin.
Yeah.
Paul Newman.
Paul Newman. Boy, he's put together some...
It's a wonderful cast. Jennifer Jason Leigh.
And it's about
Stanley
the mob,
Tucci.
isn't it?
It's set in a world of Irish gangsters, a gangland family outside of Chicago in 1930, but it's really a film about a father and a son on a journey of purity.
Purity?
Really, to get away, to purify themselves, but more specifically about fathers and sons. And Sam, again, the thrill, the joy of working with good people, great people, is that they take what could be a genre film and they make it an epic film. So you're not just doing a gangster movie, you're doing suddenly a film about family, about purity, about love, about escape, about...
So the gangster thing is just
about
what they do?
Murder, you know, about the bigger issues. And yes, it's set in that world, but...
Yeah, that's what they say that actually The Godfather achieved too. While it was in fact about the mafia, but it was also about sort of
families,
family,
family,
and also sort of, you know, the corporate structure in America, so to speak.
Yeah,
you know,
certainly by
it was
number
about an
two,
organization,
it became
a lifestyle, and a
political. Really, by number two, it was like a view of the infrastructure of America.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely, yeah.
What Shakespearean character do you want to play? I mean, how long before you'll say, "I got to go do Hamlet"?
I'd only do Hamlet if the right director asked me to, because you'd need to be in really good hands. And I've always felt with Shakespeare that you've got to you can't just jump into it. You've got to. I felt doing Giovanni and 'Tis Pity She's a Whore was a good sort of fielding ground, because Ford's dialogue is a little cruder, a little more tangible, immediately tangible from an actor's point of view than Shakespeare. It's not as flowery. It's not as it's not run by iambic pentameter, for one thing. So, I mean, goodness, you know, Shakespeare is so rich with great characters, smaller characters, bigger characters, that I couldn't begin.
But when you make a commitment to the stage, or do you make a commitment for? I mean, it has to be for a limited amount of time. I mean, you can't go. You're going to be 6 months there, or what?
Yeah, 5, 6 months.
5 or 6 months.
Yeah,
you can handle that.
Oh yeah, it's a joy, especially when it's a good play. You only begin to scratch the surface of some of them by that period of time, because they've got so much in them.
But you do not know, as we sit here, the next movie you're going to make.
No. I quite like that.
You quite like it, don't
you?
You're not scared for a moment that somebody won't come along and...
Oh God, that makes me so cocky was that word. That was the word, wasn't it? No, it's not that. It's more that there's some, there are things in the pipeline, but I don't know necessarily when they're going to happen. And the priority in my life at the moment is that my son starts what we call big school.
Big school, which is like kindergarten, I think. Right,
yeah, in September, and I want to be there for the beginning of his schooling career.
Yeah. Your wife is an actress?
My wife's an actress.
What's her name?
Sadie Frost.
Sadie Frost. Yeah. This is like you met her on the set.
Yeah, well, at work.
Yeah, well-
People always say, it's so corny, on set. It's like, well, everyone meets on work, don't they? Or at a party.
Exactly. Where do you meet
So,
people?
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, we met on a set.
I assume most marriages take place from people who met probably
At
either
work,
in
yeah.
school or on the set, or
Yeah.
at work.
Yeah.
That's where you meet most people.
Quite, yeah.
Yeah. It's been great to have you here.
Oh, thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
The film is called Artificial Intelligence, directed by Steven Spielberg. Jude Law is in it. Who else?
Haley Joel Osment
Haley plays,
plays David. Francis O'Connor. William Hurt. Brendan Gleeson.
Wow.
Sam Robards. It's a wonderful cast.
Again, thank you.
Pleasure.
Thank you for joining us for the hour. We'll see you next time.